You're listening to the To Stay, To Leave, To Know podcast, where I cover the most common questions running through your mind as you're considering whether to stay married and try again or part ways. I'm your host, Anna, an empowerment and mindset coach for ambitious women like you who are in a dilemma and considering divorce or separation from your long term partner. I'm here to help you filter through all of the thoughts you're having, whether and how you can save your marriage. This podcast is here to provide commentary and nuance on the most common experiences that are making you consider divorce as an option, to help you discern from the online noise and advice and bring depth to the conversations. Because when I was in the same confusing and dark space, I felt so isolated and alone. For nearly 4 years, I was stuck in indecision, confused by everyone else's differing opinions, with no one to turn to guide me through it, and feeling the weight and the gravity of such decision on my own future, the future of my son, and everyone else around us. Once I started talking, I realized I was really not alone. So many other women were going through very similar challenges, in silence, isolated, often out of shame or lack of trust in others. I'm here to put a stop to it and to finally provide guidance for this period I call the void. I'm here to bring clarity and be a guiding light as you're feeling torn between honoring what your heart desires and what the society expects you to do. So let's get going. Maybe you're the problem. Sometimes it's you. And this is one of those things that I don't think is talked about enough in the coaching and self development industry. This perspective that sometimes, yes, we are the problem when it comes to marriages and relationships. I think it's very easy to go online and find various different takes on recognizing how others contribute to the dysfunction within the marriage, the dysfunction within the relationship, and naming what kind of work, internal work they need to do. But I think we lack the takes where we actually take the responsibility. And I've seen this displayed quite a few times in the coaching industry. This conversation usually happens when husbands express dissatisfaction with wife's behavior or the things that are going around the in the ways that the wife has changed and all of that. And you might have had an experience similar to that where a partner has come to you, they've expressed dissatisfaction with certain things, the way you were speaking to them or the way you've addressed certain things or the way you're behaving, some of your actions. And your immediate response was to get defensive. And part of that sometimes can come from a perspective of, oh, I've done all this inner work. I'm unmistakable. And that defensiveness might come from that because, from your perspective, is like, oh, I've done this inner work, I've done this inner growth, all of that. And if they still experience some level of dysfunction, it means that I'm not on a subconscious level. It might feel like you still have work to do. And that's where the defensiveness might come from. But also, it might come from a perspective that, yes, when they express dissatisfaction or when they're feeling insecure or when they're saying, I don't feel like um, you see me or that I have value for you, you can probably see the bigger picture as someone who has done the self development work. You can see the bigger picture of that problem that they are expressing, that they're having, or the feelings that they're expressing, and how their inner work that they still need to do is contributing to that feeling. But in your understanding of that bigger picture and that it is their responsibility, that it is they're feeling that way because they have not addressed certain things within themselves, you might tend to go steer in the direction of being dismissive. So You might kind of not admit to your part in it and brush it off as not being your job to do. You wash your hands off being the emotional support for your partner because you see it from a perspective they need to work on themselves, and once they work on themselves, they will not be feeling this way, they will not be feeling insecure, or XYZ, whatever they're feeling. So you feel like it is not your responsibility to do that. And it comes from a perspective that you believe we are responsible for our own emotional regulation and our own emotional healing. And I agree to this to a certain extent. I do agree to this. Is it your job to be a substitute therapist for your partner? No. Is it your responsibility to be an emotional dumping ground for your husband and help him fix things and take the responsibility of his challenges onto yourself? No. But if you heard me speak, you would have heard me say things about a healthy dose of or healthy level of interdependence. So that uh, in relationships, in friendships, in family dynamics, there is a level of healthy interdependence. I'm not an advocate for hyper individuality and a hyper isolation, but that thing of healthy level of interdependence also applies to you and other people around you, and how uh, they are your partner, your husband, yes, is kind of responsible. You are dependent on each other. There is a level of healthy dependence where you feed and you help each other, support each other. It is normal for your partner to want to hear that you are acknowledging their perspective. It is normal for your partner to feel like, to want to feel like you see them. They want to see, like, they want to be seen and heard. They want you to acknowledge that you see and hear them. And if you're going through so many identity and life changes, you should communicate to your husband and make sure that he knows that you still want him, you still value him, you still see him as a valuable contributor in your marriage and a valuable person within that marriage. So if your partner is expressing that they're not feeling like, yes, they might be experiencing insecurity, that they feel like they do not have value in the marriage, that is their thing to address. But I also believe it is also our responsibility to communicate and reassure our partner if we're going through so many changes, if we're going through all of that, to communicate to our partner that we still value them. If your partner expresses concerns and he's saying, I'm questioning my space in the marriage, it is, I don't think you should be telling them they need to work on themselves and their insecurities. Yes, that might be true. And yes, there might be a truth to an extent to it where they need to address certain things within themselves and do their inner work and address their worthiness wounds or whatever is there, any childhood wounds that are there. Yes, they should do. And there might be an element of that too. You still, I believe, owe them a level of clear communication and acknowledgement that you still find them valuable, that he's still very much needed and wanted. Just because you acknowledge and reassure them and tell your partner, communicate to your partner, hey, I know I'm going through this, but I just want you to know I still find you valuable. I still want you. I still see you as a valuable contributor in this marriage. It doesn't mean you're feeding into his insecurities. It just means you're acknowledging and communicating clearly with your partner. So, a couple of things for you to consider when it comes to this and kind of taking accountability and taking a few things into consideration to see whether you are actually taking accountability for a certain level of responsibility within the relationship. So there are a few things that I would like for you to consider. And this is not to put the blame on you. This is not to make you feel insecure about your desire to move forward or to separate, but it is just to give you a further level of nuance before you actually make that decision, for you to check in with yourself or assure that you have ticked those boxes off as well. So, a few things to consider. One is his every concern, every expression of a need or emotion met with spiritual bypassing and dismissal as if you are the one who knows better? Are you approaching every conversation whenever he expresses something with a level of, well, I've done all of this self development work. I know in this situation, I know better. My question to you is that actually true? Does it happen that you are in the right in every single conversation just because you're the one who has done more self development work, more inner healing? Do you find yourself that you feel like in every discussion, you are the one in the right? Are you ever actually holding yourself accountable? Or does your self reflection always conclude with aha moment, how your strength and how your growth triggered his wounds, and how it is his responsibility to heal those wounds? Is every time you turn to the journal, is every time when you meditate or self coach, is that the only aha moment? Is that the only perspective that comes out of each and every session? Does it mean that just because he got triggered, it absolves you from the responsibility you have as his wife, as his partner, to be mindful about the way you speak about it? And this is not a way to say that you need to censor yourself or walk on eggshells around your husband, but a bit more mindfulness and acknowledgement of the gap between level of self improvement between two of you goes a long way, because there will be a level of gap in understanding, a level of gap in being able to express yourself in the emotional literacy between two of you. So that gap, it would be in a way each of your responsibility to bridge that gap. His responsibility would be to start doing the inner work so he can communicate better and he can understand you better when you express yourself, so that he can bridge that gap and meet you where you are. But I also think it is your responsibility to be mindful that he does not have the same level of emotional literacy and understanding of that self growth as you do, and that you need to be mindful of that when you're communicating with him, so that he is not feeling dismissed, because that gap in understanding and that gap in emotional literacy will make him feel a certain way when you're expressing yourself. So you both have a responsibility in that. He needs to take part of and do his job of making sure that he meets, bridges that gap, and that he reaches your level and does the work of self growth for himself. Then the next point that I really want to kind of bring forward is that if ever you're looking for feedback, and let's say you have a disagreement with your partner, with your husband, and he brings a valid concern, and then it keeps happening, and then you speak to whoever you speak to, your circle, whether that's someone who has similar level of understanding of self-development work and they've done the inner work, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. Are you ever seeking feedback from people who are not afraid to disagree with you? Because let's be honest, if you're confiding in your family, if you're confiding in your friends, if you're confiding with people who are who have the same perspectives as you, are they ever comfortable to disagree with you? And can they ever be fully objective with you? Or you're only seeking feedback from people who agree with you and confirm your beliefs? Or did you put yourself into an echo chamber? Have you considered that you might be surrounded with the yes people, with people who fawn over you, who admire you, who see your perspective as the right one and do not disagree with you? Have you ever considered that you might be a part of the echo chamber? And do you ever seek perspectives that are opposing or that are a bit different or to an extent different than what you are teaching? How are you assuring that you're keeping yourself in check and not just assuming the position of being the person who is right? One thing that I have noticed that is commonly displayed with people who have sort of a avoidant attachment style is that avoidance can mask itself as spiritual superiority, as also from as a perspective of I'm taking this action, I'm taking this perspective because I'm taking these steps because it is for the higher good of all. It can mask itself as a spiritual superiority in a form of I know better because I've done more work, or a variety of that one is because I've been longer at this. I'm more ahead of them. They started after me, and it can sneak its way into your work, and it can be a sort of a way when you do not consider perspectives just because it has been done given by someone who hasn't been at it for a while. And that what I notice is that without proper accountability, that avoidance can display itself throughout your self coaching, and it can really sneak into your journaling and meditation work and steer you in the direction of avoiding to face the discomfort that it might be you in some ways that you're contributing to it, and things you need to look out for, the things that you need to address. And one of my clients nearly dumped her husband because she got sucked into this online propaganda to leave her husband because he's not currently meeting her needs. And that because there was a gap between self development work, and that because he was doing certain things in a wrong way, she should just dump him. She nearly went into that direction because for her, it was a lot easier to do that rather than face the discomfort of being proven wrong or her being wrong. Her mind was set on that men can't change because of her previous past experiences, confirmed that. And then she didn't want to be proven wrong. And she didn't want to face the discomfort of having to wait for him to show her that he can change, because she was so set in her mind that no man can change. And she didn't want to be proven wrong and she was dismissive about this because she's spent a lot of time in the coaching industry. She's done all the self development work, you know. So she knew in her mind, she was like, oh, I am right. So, how do you go about it without making yourself fully responsible and taking the blame for the challenges that are happening within the marriage, but also not being dismissive towards your partner and not taking any accountability that in which way you are contributing to it? And the solution, from my perspectives, is not to have masterminders who are also your peers, but you also meet them for accountability, but you're also friends, because in reality, they can never hold you accountable. And in reality, they will never be able to be impartial with you, especially if that kind of mastermind is without any payment. There's no one leading it. It's just like three or four of you who are meeting regularly for accountability, but there's no lead. There's no one holding you accountable. Because from my perspective, I have seen this not work only because there is different kind of energy when you have one who is the lead, who's hosting the mastermind, who is being paid for that work, and everyone else joins it with their own contributions, because you know that you are paying to be challenged, and you're paying there to be led through that mastermind. There is no clear leader when you have several masterminders, and you are kind of keeping yourself accountable and coaching each other, but there's no clear lead. And as such, there is not that level of impartiality, because you will, there will be a level of wanting to preserve what you have, and that connection and that friendship and that peership. So you will never be able to, they will never be able to be in that perspective where they hold you accountable, which is exactly the reason why I started doing this work. Because I've noticed that there is very little out there, very little support for people who are considering divorce, that offers you a solution where you receive impartial feedback about what is going on, where you are held accountable, but you're also listened to and coached and guided through that decision, so that you're making it from a perspective that you're doing what you really want to do at this stage of life, but also recognizing to which extent you are contributing to the challenges in the relationship, and where you are potentially being avoidant, or where your patterns are affecting your decision making. And this is why I created my coaching. This is why I started offering this as a service, because there was never an option for people where they can come and be supported by someone who does not have any emotional investment in the decision that you make. Because when you look at it, your parents, your immediate family members, they will have emotional investment into your decision. Your friends, they will have emotional investment. Your peers who are not paid, who you're not paying for the work, will also not be able to be fully transparent, because of that lack of exchange of energy and lack of clear leadership in that, in those dynamics. A lot of the programs, a lot of the group coaching programs do not have any support, like any business growth and scaling programs, or group masterminds. They do not have any section where you can actually address this, which is exactly why I created my coaching. And this is exactly why I started working with women who are considering separation, to be that guidance, to help you discern, and to help you keep yourself accountable in those moments when you're making that decision, so that you know that you're making that decision from a right place, not from a place of your own wounds, not from a place of attachment, not from a place of bad habits and avoidance, but from a place of what is the highest good of all for you, and what you want to achieve from your life, and how you want to live right now, but also making that decision from a space of regulated nervous system, and honoring and taking everything into consideration. So if this is you, if you have found yourself in a dilemma, stuck in a loop between figuring out whether you're the problem, making yourself the problem, or he's the problem, and trying to find a decision that feels right for you, but you keep ping ponging between staying and leaving, and you can't really move forward with that decision, please do reach out to me. There is a form that you can fill out to apply for an exploration call with me, where we can discuss that in further details, and we can see whether I'm the best fit for you to work with. And this is what I'm going to end it with for today. I'm sending you lots of love and a